I used to believe there would always be more time to prepare, more time to perfect, more time to wait for the right conditions, the right funding, the right team, the right moment. I told myself that patience was strategy, that delay was wisdom, that hesitation was calculation. But here is the truth I learned the hard way. Time is the one resource you never get back. You can raise capital again. You can rebuild a company. You can redesign a rocket. But you cannot rewind a single second. When I was building Zip2 and later PayPal, I thought survival was everything. If we could just survive long enough, success would eventually arrive. And sometimes that was true. But survival without bold action is just slow decline. I remember nights when the servers were crashing, when investors were doubtful, when the media was skeptical. I could have waited for the right time to expand, to innovate, to take risks. Instead, I learned something critical. The right time is almost always uncomfortable. When I started SpaceX, people said private companies couldn't build rockets. They said it was impossible, too expensive, too risky. The right time would have been when technology was cheaper, when public opinion was supportive, when failure wasn't so visible. But if I had waited for that perfect alignment, SpaceX would not exist. The Falcon 1 failed 3 times, 3 public explosions. 3 very expensive lessons. After the 3rd failure, I had just enough money left for one more launch. That wasn't the right time. That was the last time. And that's when I understood something deeper. Waiting for the right time is often fear disguised as logic. We tell ourselves we're being strategic, but sometimes we're just afraid to fail publicly, afraid to be judged, afraid to lose. But failure is temporary. Time lost is permanent. When I invested in Tesla, it was bleeding cash. Electric cars were considered toys. The right time would have been when battery costs dropped, when infrastructure was ready, when consumers were demanding EVs. But transformation never begins when demand is obvious. It begins when someone decides that waiting is no longer acceptable. I kept telling myself, soon, we'll scale. Soon we'll expand. Soon we'll push harder. But soon is a dangerous word. Soon becomes later. Later becomes never. And never is how dreams quietly die. There's a moment in every ambitious life when you realize that the clock isn't slowing down. It's accelerating. You wake up and a year has passed. You blink and a decade is gone. The projects you meant to start are still ideas. The conversations you meant to have remain unspoken. The risks you meant to take are still postponed. I used to think time was abundant. Now I understand it's brutally finite. If you're waiting for the perfect opportunity, stop. The perfect opportunity doesn't exist. Conditions will never be ideal. Markets will never be completely stable. People will never be entirely supportive. You move anyway. Because one day you will look back and realize you weren't waiting for the right time. You were waiting for certainty. And certainty never comes to those who are building the future. The future belongs to the impatient builders. The ones who act before they feel ready. The ones who launch before they feel safe. The ones who decide that imperfect action beats perfect hesitation. I kept waiting for the right time. And then I realized something terrifying. Time doesn't wait for you. When we were developing the Model S, we were on the edge of collapse. Production delays. Cost overruns. Near bankruptcy. The right time to innovate would have been after financial stability. But innovation doesn't follow stability. Stability follows innovation. Scarcity forced creativity. Urgency forced clarity. And that's the lesson. Urgency is a gift. It strips away distraction. It eliminates trivial concerns. When you realize you're running out of time, you suddenly know exactly what matters. I don't fear failure. I fear regret, heavier than loss. Loss teaches you. Regret haunts you. Imagine reaching the end of your life and realizing you waited. You postponed. You delayed the call. You delayed the launch. You delayed the confession. You delayed the leap. I kept waiting for the right time to push harder, to risk more, to move faster. But the right time is now. It has always been now. Time doesn't announce its departure. It just leaves. And if you don't move, it moves without you. I'm telling you to stop hiding behind perfection. Progress requires motion. Motion requires courage. Courage requires decision. You don't need more time. You need more commitment. The clock is ticking whether you act or not, so you might as well act. I used to think there was always another launch window, another funding round, another chance. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. The 4th Falcon 1 launch succeeded. If it had failed, SpaceX would have been over. There would have been no Falcon 9, no Dragon, no reusable rockets, no Starship,